Good morning. All right, we have some people still popping in, but I think we'll go ahead and get started and be conscientious of everyone's time here. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Valerie Tobias, and I'm the marketing coordinator for Dairy Connection, and I'll be moderating today's information session on the SCIO Dairy Analyzer. We have Andy Johnson here today from the technical team here at Dairy Connection. Who will be presenting a brief overview of the SCIO Analyzer. And from SCIO today, we welcome Penny Brown, who will dive a bit more into the details of the device and explain how it can serve cheesemakers. After Penny's presentation, Andy will demonstrate how the SCIO device works. He'll do that live. And after that, we'll jump into any questions that you may have. Andy and Penny will be able to answer those. And feel free to drop your questions into the Q&A section at any time. We're going to try to hold questions to the end, if possible. And I'll add that a recording is being made today, so we'll send that link to everyone as soon as it's available. If you give me just a second here, I'll tell you a little bit more about our speakers. Let's see here. All right, Andy, can you bring that up for me? All right, today we have Andy Johnson from Dairy Connection. Andy Johnson is a technical specialist with Dairy Connection, helping clients with technical application support, issues such as culture and enzyme selection, application procedures, and troubleshooting. His career began nearly 2 decades ago as a cheesemaker for award-winning creameries in Vermont, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. And before joining us here at Dairy Connection, Andy served as an assistant coordinator for the cheese industry and applications group at the Wisconsin CDR. And Penny Brown from SCIO, in her role as senior product manager at SCIO, Penny Brown plays a pivotal role in delivering SCIO's real-time material analysis solutions into production environments, helping transform quality control in the cheese and dairy industry. With a background spanning R&D, product development, and commercial strategy, Penny specializes in bridging technical innovation with real-world execution. Her focus is on helping producers reduce waste, improve consistency, and turn data into fast, actionable decisions. So I will hand it off to Andy here to take over.
All right, thanks, Valerie. We'll get going. So today we are excited to introduce to you a new tool, the SCIO Dairy Analyzer. We believe this device will be useful to cheesemakers, cheese graters, cheese converters, pretty much anyone working with cheese. This pocket-sized device measures moisture, fat, and protein content of your cheese sample. Working from the cloud, the device delivers results to your connected device, like your phone, in under 10 seconds, giving you instant information and quicker decision-making power. When compared to other options, like sending samples to a laboratory, which most of us do already, using the SCIO may be significantly more cost-effective as well. In addition, this device does not require destruction of the sample, further reducing analytical costs and waste. However, before we begin discussing this in more detail, Valerie did introduce me, but I want to tell you a little bit more about Dairy Connection and what I do here. So for those of you not familiar with us, Dairy Connection is proudly served as an ingredient supplier to specialty, farmstead, small to mid-sized cheese and fermented milk manufacturers nationwide since 1999. Dairy Connection was established for the very purpose of providing smaller makers the same service, ingredients, and technical support as their larger counterparts. Today, more than 25 years after starting Dairy Connection, we now serve makers of every size. As a technical specialist here at Dairy Connection, my role is to help our customers with the application of our products, but also help support them with any processing or troubleshooting challenges they may have. So I have some input and insights on how a device like this could be useful to cheesemakers, graters, and converters. So for my part in today's discussion, I will talk about how we feel this device will benefit our industry, but I'm also excited to have Penny with us, who will let us know more about the development of the SCIO unit and how it works. Okay, so the agenda for today, I'll start off to discuss how we think this device will be useful. I'll get into talking about how this device will help you make more consistent cheese, but also help you troubleshoot defects when they should arise. Then we're going to have Penny talk or provide an overview of how the analyzer was developed and how it works. We'll have a quick demonstration of the unit so you can see how easy it is to use. And then we'll finally finish up with any questions you all have. Okay, to set the stage here, I think most of us would agree that cheese and cheese making are complex. Transforming milk into high quality cheese consistently is challenging. One measure of our success of our cheese making is to achieve the correct composition of our cheese, which we know alone will not ensure success. You know, there's other things going on that affect that, but achieving the correct composition is essential if we want our cheese to turn out as desired. So again, a tool that we are going to talk about today that will help you achieve your compositional targets will be the SCIO Dairy Analyzer. As I mentioned, Penny will give an overview of the device and how it works, but I want to quickly discuss how this device may be helpful to you. Again, reiterating and keeping in mind how important cheese composition is in determining how your cheese will turn out. So if you think about cheese flavor, aroma, texture, microbial quality, yield, shelf life, they're all tied to composition. Maintaining quality and tight control over your composition is important. Having a device like this to get real-time measurements of moisture, fat, and protein will be very beneficial in getting your composition back in line when it gets off track. If you take moisture content, for example, many of our customers, I think pretty much all cheesemakers at one time or another, struggle to maintain consistent moisture content in their cheese. Moisture content directly impacts the texture of your cheese, but also the biological processes during aging or shelf life, which can affect both flavor and texture. It can be challenging to maintain a consistent moisture content. For example, some producers experience a large variability in milk composition throughout the year, which directly impacts cheese moisture. Also, producers struggle with achieving consistent acidification, so that's the rate and extent of acid development during the cheese make process, which can also affect the final moisture content. So being able to react to this variability, for example, by adjusting your cutting and cook parameters, or your drying and aging room conditions to help return moisture back to target levels will be essential. But of course, the first step would be to use a device like this to know your moisture content is off target. Troubleshooting defects is definitely something we help our customers with here. And every producer at one time or another struggles with defects. It's just sort of how cheese making is. It sort of speaks to the complexity of it. But a large majority of the cheese defects that we see are related to improper composition. So for example, excessively soft cheese, abnormal ripening causing flavor and texture defects, and inconsistent rind development, to name a few, can be tied to improper composition. Using the SCIO analyzer to establish a baseline or target composition for your cheese, if you don't have one already, and then comparing those results to the baseline will give you a big advantage in helping you troubleshoot defects when they occur. Also, I want to point out one way to use the compositional measures more effectively when troubleshooting is to review compositional ratios like fat and dry matter or moisture non-fat solids. Utilizing ratios like these is a more powerful measure of composition than just looking at moisture, fat, and protein results alone. These ratios are computed instantly in real time for you by the device, making it easier to get a better picture of your cheese composition. As I've already mentioned, using a device like this will allow you to measure the composition of your cheese, confirming that you are on target, or if not, you can then make adjustments to get your composition back on track. Measuring the composition of the finished cheese will allow you to make adjustments to the next batch. But for some operations, measuring the curd while in process will allow you to make adjustments on the fly and not have to wait for the next batch. Additionally, measuring the cheese during aging while in the drying or ripening room, for example, will allow the cheesemaker or affineur to adjust room parameters or aging duration to achieve compositional targets. So being able to measure and monitor composition throughout the entire process will give you a big advantage in helping you achieve consistent cheese. In addition to the cheese manufacturers, I also want to point out that others in our industry, like cheese graters and converters, may find this device useful in helping making aging and processing decisions. So I know that was brief, but I hope I got the message across that achieving the correct composition is crucial to successful cheese making. and having an accurate and fast way to measure the composition will be very useful in getting your cheese to turn out as desired every time, and also to troubleshoot when needed. Penny will talk a little bit more about these ideas, but I will hand it over to her to talk more in detail about how the device works.
All right. Thanks, Andy. Appreciate the introduction. All right, so I'm going to just run through a little bit about the company SCIO, who are we, and I'll also give you a little bit of background into our product, how it came about, and what we see it being used for. So SCIO has been around now for 14 years. We have been an organization that has grown with our partners. So we started working with these large agricultural companies. So you might recognize some of the names here, Corteva, Syngenta, Bayer, big organizations that needed a solution, and we were able to work with them and provide a solution. And that's always been the way that SCIO has worked. We've always tried to work with industry to provide solutions for industry. These days, SCIO is being used by more than 4,000 users worldwide with over 15 million scans each year. So globally, we have really become quite established as portable NIR equipment. So a little bit about the SCIO solution. So, we get asked a lot, what was our idea to begin with? Where was our inspiration? And the truth is, we saw a lot of technology that was emerging that you could access from your mobile phone or in different elements of your life, but they weren't really being applied to measurement equipment. And so we saw really an opportunity for us to be able to apply all these latest technologies to your standard measurement equipment, which, still really until today is based off technology that has existed 10, 20 years ago. So one of those things, for example, is our ability to have cloud connectivity, which really opens up a lot of options, not just in terms of data storage, but also in terms of rapid response and flexibility with calibrations. And another thing is, Bluetooth technology, which really has allowed for this device to be super portable. So a little bit about our system. Our technology is based on a hardware item. So we have two with the SCIO Cup and the SCIO Mini. The SCIO Mini is what we are using for the cheese product. We have a mobile app. So this is something that you can download from your standard app store. And these devices connect to each other through Bluetooth. And what that means is that if you're using it out there on your shop floor, you don't need to worry about having internet connection. You can take scans without internet, but all the data exists on our cloud system. So that means that you're not going to get a result until you connect back to the internet. And it's a really nice solution in terms of having centralized data that you can then use effectively. There's a lot of talk always around big data and being able to collect as much data as possible, but it's really only useful if you're able to analyze and, collect that data in a meaningful way. On our cloud, we have data storage and we have our machine learning algorithms. And this is another thing that has really only been possible with the technology improvements in the last few years of being able to use AI algorithms. So in terms of accuracy and being able to work with many different cheese types, it's something that previously wasn't possible. All right, so let's talk specifically about cheese. So cheese is a product that we initially became interested in after we got a call from some guys in Novonesis, the enzyme supplier, and they were very interested in being able to have a portable NIR equipment for their team. So they approached us because they understood that this technology was around and they saw the potential in being able to use something like this to be able to scan all the time, get results all the time. And so we collaborated with them to build the calibration. We also worked with a number of different laboratories around the world to be able to create the calibration that we now have. And we also did some investigations to understand, what is the value that this product provides? When we develop a product, we want to know that that's going to provide real value to our industry. And so here are some of the things that we discovered in our journey of understanding the need for cheesemakers. And that is that it's really difficult to maintain process control. So these small fluctuations that can happen all the time can result in big changes. And we know that there's variability due to milk quality, seasonal shifts in what's coming in, and then even just gradual changes, things that you might not notice immediately. So things like your agitator slowing down or your heat exchanger scaling. These are all little small changes that can have very meaningful effects on your cheese. And the issue that has previously been the problem is that these methods to be able to detect these changes has been very time consuming, very costly, and destructive. So that means that you're losing yield by testing a lot and testing every batch that you might have. And the other thing that we really identified was that, we all know that cheese can be quite non-homogeneous, and, taking a very small sample to send to the lab, you might just justifiably be worried that that's not representative of your total VAT. And so we saw that there really was a need to be able to provide the composition for cheese at every stage of your process, something that was accessible, something that was fast, and that would really have an effect on the bottom line of your cheese making process. And so this is the product that we have built for cheese, and it's something that we have seen really addresses a lot of the challenges that cheesemakers face today. So results are instant, and that means that you're talking about 10 seconds from the time that you press that button to when you get a result. There's no need for sample preparation. And so that means that you can take it on your line, you can take it instantly without having to run it through a food processor. And that just adds a lot of flexibility to your measurements. And then the device is intended to be used from the time that you're cutting your curd, so very early on in your process, all the way down to your curing and your final product. We've really designed this product to be as simple as possible for the user. So there's no training that is required. It's one button to get a result. We have one calibration, which, as I mentioned, is only made possible through the use of AI technology. It is a very durable product. It's IP53 rated, which means that it can handle splashes. It's perfect for the environment that you'll have in your cheese making process. It is also, you don't have to worry about having wet hands when you handle it. It's really made to be rugged. And as I mentioned before, it's cloud connected, so the data flexibility of being able to manage that is also fantastic. In terms of sharing data, it's really a very simple process to either you can log into a dashboard and see all the units across your organization, but also, if you just have a single unit and you want to share results with a coworker or a friend, it's as simple as hitting the share button or downloading your product and emailing it. So it's really made for data flexibility. In terms of the battery of this device, you can do 1,000 scans before needing to recharge. And as I mentioned before, it's instant analysis. All right, in terms of the specifications of the product, what it can actually do, so moisture ranges from 30 to 85%. So that is pretty much your entire cheese making process. It will safely cover. Protein is 4 to 30%, and fat is 6 to 36%. And we've seen a lot of success so far with this product. In terms of, our initial offering to Novonesis, we've seen a lot of a very strong uptake of the product. It's now been rolled out globally across their organization. So we have units in Argentina, in Europe, in India, South Africa, the US. So really, we've had a really good uptake, and we've received really positive and strong feedback. And they're really using the device in order to be able to firstly provide advice to their customers, but also to be able to reduce the waste and the yield in transferring enzymes. So as I mentioned, immediate results, super versatile and easy to use, no need to do any training. And another thing that I didn't mention was integration. So we work really well with integrations. We have a very easy ability to integrate into like an SDK, so into a mobile application. We can integrate into existing software. So if you have a LIMS software, that's something that we can easily run an integration, and we have multiple options on how that works. And then, yeah, as I said, or just simply just downloading your data and sending it is also a really straightforward process. I have a video here. This is a video on how to measure cheese curd. We get this question a lot, so I thought it'd be interesting for everyone here to be able to see how it works in a real life scenario. So one of the things that you'll notice, when you're measuring curd is how dynamic it is. So, as we're watching this video, you can see that your curd is draining. And so that means that by definition, the curd is drying out as you're looking at it. So it's really important when you do this to have a really consistent process. So over here, he's set a time limit of 30 seconds to be able to say, yeah, we're going to let it sit for this amount, and then we're going to take that measurement. And that's just to make sure that every measurement you're taking is being subject to the same conditions. What you're really looking for is differences. So you want to make sure that the result you're getting today is the same as the result you were getting yesterday. The other thing that you'll notice he's doing is that he is mixing the sample, and this is just to make it more representative. You don't want, a non-homogeneous sample to be scanned. So he's scanning, and then between each scan, he's then mixing it up again. And that just gives you the best, most representative result possible. The other thing that you'll notice he's doing is he's actually pressing the sample down to create a flat surface. So the way that the product works is that the flatter the surface you have, the more accurate your result will be. So we really want to avoid having, large mountains or little humps in your sample. You really want to have that flat. All right, I'll just skip forward a little bit. So as you can see here, that he's received the results. In terms of the ability to enter data, we have fields for pH, for location, and also for your process step, if you want to record that. You can upload photos if you want to take a photo of your sample, and you can just add notes. So you want to scan a barcode or whatever it might be so that you can record a sample number. All those things are possible with the SCIO app. All right. Okay, that's it. Thank you for listening. If anyone's interested in getting a copy of this presentation, I'm happy to share it as well.
We're pretty excited about this technology. I don't know if you can tell. All right, so at this juncture, Andy is going to do a little demo, and I'm going to switch it over to our demo cam here in a moment, and Andy will kind of walk through the process. So give me one moment here. Okay, so you're on, Andy.
All right, so you can see the unit here, portable, relatively small. There's not too many moving parts, but the business end of it is here below the shade. So that's the sensor and the light source. So that's what's actually going to be put on the cheese sample and to read it. As Penny mentioned, there's a one button operation. So it uses to turn on and off the device to pair it. But there's also a status ring around that button, which will illuminate different colors. For example, it'll start flashing white when it's ready to connect. It'll stay white when it's connected and ready to scan, even flash red for low battery. So that's helpful. But quickly to show how easy this instrument or device is to use. So I have the SCIO unit and my phone here. So I'm simply going to turn on the device. And then it's looking to pair. And so just because I have been using this device, it is already paired, but typically there would be a little button in the corner up here to push to pair it. So that was easy. But the first screen that you see here is basically the cheese applet. So you'll select that. And then what Penny was mentioning here, you can enter certain identification or IDs here of pH or processing step, or download a barcode or picture if you choose to. Then the next screen, you're ready to scan. So there's two ways you can scan. You can scan clicking this button, here, or else just push the button on the device. So I'm just gonna click the button on the device. So the device and the phone are taking the reading and communicating, and then I'm going to send that information up to the cloud to get it analyzed, and that's how fast it comes back. So a matter of seconds. You can see dry matter at the top, those identifiers that we chose not to plug in for this sample. But then, of course, the moisture, protein, and fat, and then those compositional ratios that I told you about that are computed automatically. Some of the other functionalities I like is you can, send that data off if you want. But also in history and reports, everything's saved. So you can, call back those, but also there's some graphing functions, which are nice. So it'll automatically graph for you. So that's it in a nutshell. It's pretty straightforward to use. You saw how fast you got the results back. So again, pretty slick technology. Now I guess we'll have time for questions. I think we do have a few questions in the chat already, but I can answer. So the first question we typically get is, of course, how much does the unit cost? Which is totally valid. So I can answer that. The unit or the hardware itself is $1,200 for the device. And then there's a $1,495 annual subscription. So basically $1,500 annually to manage the data and calibration, which may seem like a lot for some folks. Some folks it may not seem like a lot given other alternative methods. But for those smaller producers, we'd be willing to have a, cost benefit conversation if that would be helpful to think through the value of this unit. Also, we're offering a 30-day trial period, which can you'll trial the unit for 30 days to see if it works for your operation and sort of help inform that decision. But are there any, Penny, do you want to add to that? The
Yeah.
question of value and cost.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, obviously, the size of your organization is going to have an impact on, that ROI and whether the device is worthwhile. There's so many different use cases and how you can use your device. So it also is quite individual to your organization. But yeah, I mean, from what we see that, like for a reasonable sized dairy, this, adds up very quickly. And we really want to see it as, is this actually going to be saving you money? Will you be able to make better cheese, more consistent cheese, and reduce your waste and increase your yield? So, we've seen that the answer for many dairies is yes, this is absolutely worthwhile.
One question that we had, Penny, this is Valerie. What types of milk does this work best with?
So most of our products that it's built on are for cow's milk, obviously. But we do have goat's milk cheeses also included in our calibration, and some types of sheep's cheese as well. So if you have a question about whether or not your cheese is suitable for the product, we recommend that you ask us. Definitely the standard, the common types of cheese will be included. But if you've got a, particular type of sheep's cheese, which you're not so sure about, just shoot us an email and we'll be able to let you know if that's included or not.
From a guest, it says, hello, thank you for the presentation. Does this device also measure the salt content?
Great question. Currently, it does not. We do have plans to have the salt included, though. So it's on our roadmap, and we should be at least we're definitely working on it and hope to have it available next year.
So those are all the questions I have currently. Encourage you to drop any questions you have into the Q&A section. Brittany says thank you.
Well, I have a question. I have a question for Penny about
Sure.
accuracy. How we get that question a lot. So how do you describe the accuracy of the unit, of the technology?
Yeah, so it's a great question. Obviously, accuracy is a really critical part of this. It's a difficult question to answer though, because every cheese type will have its own accuracy. The way that we tend to sort it kind of into categories is we look at a final product cheese versus a curd. So when we're looking at a drier cheese, we expect to see an accuracy of around 0.9% standard deviation for moisture, 0.7 for fat, and 0.9 for protein. And then we're looking at a curd, which we know is, less less heterogeneous, and it is, it's more dynamic in its nature. Then we tend to see an accuracy of around 1.4 standard deviation for moisture, 1.2 for fat, and 1.5 for protein.
Okay, thank you.
Next question we have is, what about natural rind cheeses?
In terms of, can it measure the rind? I'm guessing is the question.
That's what I'm guessing as well.
Yeah, okay. It's a good question. In terms of measuring the rind, it really depends on how different the rind is to the inside of the cheese. So if you're looking at like a moldy rind, which is, significantly different to your composition inside your cheese, we haven't built the calibration into that. And that's because that we haven't seen the correlation between the composition inside your cheese and the rind. So you'd be able to get measurements theoretically, but it won't really help you in your decision making or to tweak your product. Having said that, we're at SCIO, we're a really flexible and adaptable company, and so we're always looking for feedback from the market. So if you have a use case that you think is really valid and something that you think could add a lot of value to our calibration, we're happy to hear from you, and we're always collecting more and more data. So it's something that we could be adding to our calibrations in the future.
Couple more questions coming in. So on the presentation, there is a slide that says, how's this device useful with a hand placed on top of set milk? It won't test set milk at full moisture before cutting, correct? I'm curious to test milk fat at this stage.
Yeah, so the device is not, we haven't got a calibration built for milk. At the moment, it's really just the cheese process. So curd all the way to final product.
And another question, how long is the life of the unit and how often do you need to buy a new one?
Yes, great question. This is our second generation of the SCIO Mini. The first generation that we had still has units going, and it was put out there 7 years ago. So we expect that the lifespan of this product will be even better, estimating it at 10 years, but it's still unknown. What I can say, if you have any concerns about, the lifespan of your device, we do offer like at base cost, we offer a 1-year warranty, and then we also have options for extended warranty. So if that's a concern that you have, there's definitely options to mitigate that.
Next question is, how is it testing through white mold cheeses? With all that said, we could get our numbers affected by the mold while the numbers aren't correct. Would they be consistent or greatly affected by the mold development just starting versus overgrown? Let me see if I can. I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I understand the question exactly. How is it testing through white mold cheeses? With all that said, we could get our numbers affected by the mold while the numbers aren't correct, they would be consistent. So I do think that is what you were saying earlier. Or greatly affected by the mold development just starting versus overgrown.
Yeah, so similar to what I said earlier, at a very early stage when the consistency is similar to the consistency of your cheese, you would be able to test your the rind of your cheese. However, yeah, when you have a really thick mold on the outside of your cheese, that's going to be more problematic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. If that doesn't answer your question, to this guest, if you wouldn't mind letting me know if that answered your question. Okay, thank you. He said it does.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions? Just let it sit for a minute. thanks so much for being with us today, Penny. I know
Yeah,
it's
thanks so much for
late
having
where
me
you are.
on. That's all right. Happy to join.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll just give it another 20 seconds if anyone else has any questions. Oh, one more question. 1 second. I will add too while this person's typing in their question. You can't see me. It's Valerie again. Dairy Connection is working with SCIO to offer this product to the US market. And we're offering a 30-day trial for you to assess the instrument and see if it's working for your process, how it works for you. And that's a 30-day, and our technical team will be checking in during that time just to kind of see how it's working for you and see if you have any questions. So it's kind of an easy way to check out the device. So, all right. All right, from Robert. He's wondering, how sensitive is it to outside light? For example, not in contact all around collar or cheese is lit up by the outside light influence.
So when we suggest
Okay,
using, yeah, I think I understand the question. So,
all right.
when we suggest using the product, you'll notice that you have that detachable piece. I don't know if we can show this on the demo cam.
Yeah, let me switch it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you have that detachable piece, and this piece is supposed to be in contact with your cheese. And the point of that is really to prevent the external light from interfering with your result. So, so you can use it, in daylight. You can use it as part of, you don't need to worry about external light, especially from a window or something affecting your result. Having said that, it is really important that the entire perimeter of that circle is in contact with your cheese. And yeah, and try, like, I don't know if someone would do this, but like, don't have your cheese backlit or anything like that. Put it on a solid surface where you're not getting light coming through the cheese.
All right, I've got, they say thank you. Another question, would you have to cut the natural rind cheese in order to get a reading of the cheese?
Yeah, so it's a great question. The truth is, every cheese is a little bit different and every rind is a little bit different. So it's really hard for me to say what would work for your cheese type or what wouldn't. The best thing to do is really just to test it out. So we would always recommend, if you're getting a device to test, run some tests on the inside of your cheese and run some tests on the rind. You will get different results. But what I guess you're looking for is, is that consistently biased from your inside? So I'm assuming the inside of the cheese is really the measurement that you want. So if you can say, all right, whenever I take a scan of my rind, I'm getting it 0.5% of, increased over the inside of your cheese, then that means that you can then use that in your operations to get an indication of what's going on inside. But, without being able to test it, there's really no way of knowing.
I have someone that raised a hand. I didn't know if they have a question or if they wanted to speak. If you'd like to speak, can you just let me know in the Q&A section, please? And that other guest said thank you. Andy, did you want to go through, well, while we're waiting for this guest to let us know if they'd like to speak, that last slide there that you had kind of talking about how to next steps if someone is interested?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, sort of in closing, thank you for joining us today. We hope this webinar was informative and that you now have a better understanding of how the SCIO device unit may be useful to you in your operation. Overall, having an accurate and rapid way to measure composition will help make producing quality cheese easier and give you more consistency in your cheese making. So once again, Valerie mentioned the 30-day trial period. To see if you like it. This trial period is designed to allow prospective users to evaluate the product's performance and suitability for your specific needs. So I think that's a really good opportunity for you all to test it out.
Another question, have you addressed the warranty? I think Penny, you did touch on it, but
Yeah.
if you want to reiterate,
Yeah, I'll repeat. So the product comes with a 1-year warranty. So anything that happens to your device during that period, we will replace it free of charge, excluding, obvious damage that has been caused to it. And then in terms of ongoing warranty, we do offer an extended warranty as well. So you can purchase, I think it is $200 a year, I think, to extend your warranty as well for another 3, I think, to have 3 years in total.
thank you.
Yeah.
All right, and got a last call for any questions? I'm not sure. I think the person who raised their hand, I'm not sure if they actually had a question or if we already answered it. But if you have any remaining questions, please feel free to reach out to us here at Dairy Connection. Andy and Bill here, you probably know them, and they can answer any questions that you have. And if not, they can reach out to Penny, of course. So I think, yeah, last call here. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. Everyone,
Yeah, thank you very much.
thanks for being here, Penny.
Thank you.
And thank you again.
Thank